It's frustrating. It's like, why does every idea got to come from you? Anyone ever feel this way? Where it's like anything we do, you have been the chief innovation officer at the organization, at your firm since the inception. And sometimes you wish, somebody else would come up with a good idea, because maybe it's not, you're just tapped out of ideas. You may not be, but it would be nice if others came to you with ideas, recommendations, ways in which the firm can grow and innovate. It would be nice too. So how do you do that? How do you instill a culture of innovation across your firm? And I will tell you that one of the reasons why, like in many firms, this does not exist, and I've been guilty of this myself as well, is because you're giving everybody all the answers. So when you give all the answers, you don't really give anybody the opportunity to think. So what happens if you didn't provide everyone with all the answers? Well, then they'd have no choice but to burn some calories, mental calories, and think critically. And one of the ways we do this now, so this actually came up even recently. So we are looking at a couple of evolutions of some of our service offerings. I won't share what they are yet, right? You may hear about it at the summit in November. But as we've been working through these, I have my ideas and my perspectives on them, but I wanted to see what our leadership team and some other team members could come up with. So, but the challenge sometimes when you start these brainstorming sessions, there's no structure to it whatsoever. Someone's going to present something to you. You can't even tell if it's a good idea or a bad idea, if it makes any business sense whatsoever. So you have to have some sort of guidelines and frameworks around this stuff. And what I ended up doing is I created this document, and I presented this to one of our team leads, essentially saying I would like for you to come up with some ideas and strategies and research around an evolution of this particular offering. And I'll help you and I'll support you, but here are essentially the general guidelines, right? It still has to be true to this. It has to align with our values. It has to be something that would be valuable to our clients. It has to be something that makes logistical sense. It has to be something that obviously makes sense within the ecosystem of the business. I outlined all the variables and criteria that would align with it being, an idea worth presenting. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a good idea or a bad idea, but essentially now this is what can make it a viable idea. Here are the things you have to think through that must be true in, the framework of what you're going to present. And then, encouraging them to do research in this area, provide them with the resources and the support to be able to do that. If they wanted to do some R&D, like research and development, giving them budget to try out a bunch of things, and then coming back and saying, okay, well, we're going to do this cadence. So I kind of laid this out on a 3 to 4 week cadence of when we meet, you're going to present, essentially, here are the different ideas that you have. And then whichever one we deem viable and worth pursuing further, for that one, then we're going to allocate more budget to it so you can be able to test it and iterate upon it, gain a little bit more depth of understanding and see how we could approach this. This is before we discuss anything in the way of logistics or pricing strategy or anything like that at all. And then after we determine its actual viability practically, right? Because we always test on ourselves first. Then we would start up some alpha, almost like alpha or beta pilot case studies with some of our firms, just to run it by them, see if it's be valuable to them as well. So this is part of the market research, but also in terms of case studies and implementation of determining, the efficacy of it. And, and once we've gotten some of that data back, then we can, discuss next steps. Let's say it's positive. Then we can determine the logistical framework of it, any needs in terms of scaling capacity or capabilities internally. And, it's kind of walking through the process of how you take something from an idea to actually executing it in terms of a service offering in this case. So we're working on that on a week-to-week basis. I'm not the one coming up with all the ideas. They're providing with the framework, and I'm just providing the resources and the support and the feedback. So that's how you do it.